Have you ever had your brain short circuit because you were fired so quickly and without warning? You feel as though your spirit is standing outside the room, asking yourself, wait, did that just fucking happen? Yes, I was that person. I was not caught stealing staplers or disparaging my boss on Slack either. I was fired because the CEO's conceited failure had a god complex and tried to play big boy boss without even reading a single goddamn contract. Allow me to explain. Lily Harris is my name. I'm 38 years old, and I've worked in corporate client services since I was old enough to pretend to laugh at boardroom jokes and sip awful office coffee. I had spent the previous 11 years creating my company's client services division from the ground up. The crew was trained by me. More than 100 contracts were negotiated by me. We retained half of our clients because of me. I was the absolute backbone, not just good. But Ryan didn't care about any of that. The new CEO is Ryan. He is also the son of the founder. Even if his greatest professional accomplishment up until this point was most likely accidentally showing up to a Zoom call without pants, he moves around as though he invented business. So there I am, oat milk in hand, taking care of myself at the office coffee maker, when Ryan bursts into the break room and drops this gem. I must see you in my office, Lily. Right now. It's dictator mode, with no hi or good morning. I thought he wanted to discuss client issues or strategy. Real labor. Not at all. This man isn't even seated. Simply stands there, flipping through papers as if deciding what to have for lunch, and says, "You've been fired. Lazy individuals like you shouldn't be bringing this place down. Is it okay with you?" To be honest, I initially believed it to be some kind hazing custom. As if this was a sophisticated office joke and I had overlooked an email. However, no. He took it quite seriously. I blinked. I made an effort to think. I even let him chuckle for a second before saying, "Gotcha! Nothing!" Just dead eyes, haughty and cold. I grinned as a result. I have no idea why. Most likely, muscle memory. The kind of smile you offer someone who has just trodden on your toe and isn't yet aware of it. Calm. Purposeful, comprehensive. "Ryan, have a good day." I then left, beyond my startled teammates, past the interns who appeared to have witnessed a death sentence. I gave them a head shake. Stay out of it. It's not worth it. In complete solitude, I arranged my desk. I wasn't even irritated on the way home. Simply hollow. For example, I had missed this company's birthdays. Throughout my divorce, I answered business calls. I spent more time with them than with my real family. I was dismissed like a piece of stale office cake, too. Again, though, I'm not angry. Just perplexed. Why now? How could he possibly terminate me just before the Kingswell contract was set to expire? It was a huge deal. I had spent 6 fucking months working on it. The only one who truly knew the client was me. The last review meeting was scheduled for Friday. Before the Super Bowl, what idiot lets their quarterback leave the team? My phone buzzed at around 9 in the morning the following day. Unknown figure. I nearly didn't answer. However, my instinct told me to respond to it. "Lily, Mr. Cole is here. Ryan's father, the original CEO. The man who, after a single interview and handshake, hired me more than 10 years ago." That voice struck me like a truck full of anger and nostalgia, even though I hadn't heard it in years. "What the devil made you go? What took place?" I informed him. "Right up. I was fired yesterday by your son. Claimed that I was slothful. Told me to leave and pack up. Quiet. Then the riskiest breath I've ever heard. Before doing that, did he read your contract?" Me. "What? Mr. Cole, you are Kingswell's only authorized negotiator. You are the only one with the legal authority to close the agreement. Not only the account manager. After that acquisition fiasco 3 years ago, I added that condition to myself. Then it dawned on me. Ryan didn't go ahead and read the agreement. He nuked the biggest deal the company was considering by firing me like a baby having a fit. I wasn't just hurt all of a sudden. I wasn't only angry. I was at ease. I was in charge. The gun was pointed at him when he squeezed the trigger. After 10 minutes, my phone came back to life. This time, Ryan. I didn't respond. Next, reception. Then, it's lawful. Accounting comes next. It appeared as though my phone was having a seizure. I didn't respond to any of them. Then Ryan's voicemail arrived. Listen, Lily. Yesterday, there was a misunderstanding. I might have moved too quickly. You must return to us. It's urgent. Give me a call, please. Not even a phony corporate apology. Not even a sorry. It's just urgent. God, I adored that. Then at 10:32, I received a call from Nicole, a former coworker who is currently working in marketing. She said, hardly more than a whisper, "You're not going to believe this. Give me a try, mister. Ryan just got ripped a new one by Cole. In the public eye. Before firing you, I slammed the Kingswell contract down the table and inquired as to whether he had ever read it. He hadn't, reader. He attempted to bluff. Mentioned a new direction, but Mr. Cole didn't believe it. I pointed to the part where you are the only one who can seal the deal. Ryan became white, as pale as Casper the Friendly Ghost. The nicest part then arrived. Mr. Cole informed him. Your position here becomes negotiable if this deal falls through. After hanging up, I glanced out my window. The city was silent. There were chirping birds. Pancakes were being made somewhere. However, I came to a realization at that same moment. Ryan didn't simply let me go. He burned down the whole goddamn business. And me? Either the marshmallows or the fire extinguisher were in my hands. I had no intention of returning. Really, it made my skin crawl to think about going through that glass lobby once more and grinning at those who saw me thrown out like last week's leftovers. But following the call from Mr. Cole, following Nicole's hushed account of Ryan being reamed in front of executives, to put it mildly, the temptation was genuine. I wasn't going to return like a desperate ex, though. They needed me immediately, but I wasn't going to rush in and save the day. First, I wanted something. Well, no. I desired everything. Mr. Cole messaged me once more at 11:15 a.m. I probably thought that if I wasn't trapped, I would be more likely to answer. So I didn't call this time. I truly apologize for what transpired, Lily. I miscalculated the circumstances. Please come in so we may have a private conversation in addition to the agreement. I spent some time looking at that message. Give it time to marinate. I then replied in writing, I'll think about closing the Kingswell deal, but only if certain requirements are met. Before anything happens, I would like to have a frank conversation with you. Just the facts, no best or regards. I returned to the building by midday, but not in the same way. I chose not to use the employee entrance this time. Not at all. Like I was the CEO, I strutted through the front lobby wearing a blazer and heels. And people took notice. Unfortunately, the receptionist sprang up so quickly that she knocked over her pen cup. Miss Harris Lily! Oh, Mr. Cole is anticipating your arrival. I grinned. I understand. It felt electrifying to walk down that corridor. I felt like I was strolling the Green Mile as people peered over the walls of cubicles. A few appeared relieved. A few appeared frightened. Some people simply stared. I also walked with pride. I was greeted at the door of Mr. Cole's office. He had no smile on his face. He said, Lily, and nodded. I appreciate you coming. I returned the nod. Failed to shake hands. It was silent inside. The scent of power and cedar still filled his office. Leaning against the door like a guy with too much, he closed it. Without introducing himself, he said, I made a mistake. A large one. I quickly gave my son too much power. I said nothing. His voice was softer now as he sat down. He treated you in an unprofessional manner. Inconsiderate. And, to be honest, it put a deal we've been working on for 6 months at risk. I gave one nod. Indeed, it did. He moaned and scratched his temples. This morning, I went over the contract once more. Every single syllable. You have complete control over the Kingswell account. They won't acknowledge anyone else from our side during negotiations, legally speaking. After the Steel Ridge tragedy, that clause was included. Calmly, I responded, I remember. It was you who cleared away that spill. Our gazes met. He meant it too. The apology. The remorse. It was authentic, he said. I want to offer you your job back. Complete power to complete the transaction. We'll make any circumstances you require work. I bent over. Write it down. Updated contract. Definite independence from Kingswell. Additionally, Ryan did not meddle. He didn't blink at all. Finished, I said. And one more thing. This cannot occur once more. Not to me. Not to anybody. Slowly, he nodded. You have my word. I got up. I noticed Ryan as I was leaving his office. Arms crossed, he stood at the end of the hall and pretended to be having a lengthy conversation with a junior executive. But his entire expression transformed when he saw me. He grinned. His eyes? Not at all. I didn't wince. I didn't grin. I ignored him like if he were a strange blemish on the carpet in the corridor. And I swear to God, I witnessed the very moment he came to the horrifying realization he was no longer in charge. They set up the boardroom at 1:00 p.m. Kingswell's group was en route. I went over each page one more, double-checking every detail as if it were crucial. Because, sort of, it did. Their chief executive officer, Mr. S., was abrasive. He's a no-bullshit type of person. The transaction was void if he even suspected that something was wrong on our end. I placed the final Arabic translated terms on the table. It was about respect, not just business, and I knew Mr. S. valued that. I noticed Ryan pacing outside the glass boardroom wall. Pacing, literally. As if the zookeeper had just changed the locks on a caged animal. Mr. Cole caught him in the act. Although I was unable to understand what they were saying, I witnessed Mr. Cole silence him by raising his hand. Ryan's face took on the hue of uncooked hamburger. For a moment, he glanced at me over his shoulder. That self-satisfied facade broke. Then he turned to leave. I didn't see him again that day after that. Mr. S. and his assistants entered at precisely 1:30. His countenance brightened when I welcomed him in Arabic. You did remember, he grinned. I answered, respect goes a long way. The gathering? Perfect. No interruptions, no misunderstanding. 2 hours later, we shook hands, signed the transaction, and locked the terms. It was finished. We had succeeded. Mr. Cole came over to me after the Kingswell team had left, as if someone had finally taken the 800-pound weight off his chest. He remarked, You saved us. Apology is not all I owe you. I gave him a look. This company needs a leader. He didn't dispute. As I made my way to my car later that night, I felt light, as if the air had changed, as if I had changed. I didn't return to exact retribution. I returned to serve as a reminder that I was always valuable. However, I was also aware that there were men like Ryan. They remain. They back off. Then they strike back. Furthermore, the conflict had not yet ended. I honestly thought it was done for 5 minutes or so. I completed the Kingswell transaction, restored my job. I regained my power. What about Ryan? In front of half the executive team, he was humiliated. You would think that he would retreat to his small office and avoid me, wouldn't he? Yes. No. You see, Ryan and other males don't punch. They don't flip tables or yell. No, they sabotage. Silently, methodically. Similar to termites. Little things were the first. It's minor but annoying. First, I didn't receive my travel reimbursements. Just a few $100s from the Kingswell trip. Nothing major. Strange, though. Everything was correctly submitted. However, it kept returning errors as if I had filled out the form with a crayon. Then the unsigned papers arrived. Approvals that I sent would be returned to my email as incomplete with no reason. No notes. Just a little bit late. As if someone was waiting for me to lose it by pressing undo behind the scenes. I didn't. Then everything got out of hand. Our foreign partner emailed me one morning to ask if I was sure about the new terms that I had just sent. The issue was that I had failed to send anything. I had no idea what he was discussing. It turned out that the previous evening, an email had been sent from my address. It contained incorrect client-sensitive information, risky information. My coffee almost choked me. Fortunately, I had been working with this partner for years. He was aware that something was wrong. He gave me a direct call, sent the message to me. When I opened it, I felt sick to my stomach. It appeared to be my email. Same signature, same style. I hadn't written it, though. I informed our internal systems staff about it right away. You know what they said? There is no indication of outside hacking. From a shared workstation next to the break area, the internal message was sent. Your login information was manually input. My heart fell. Phishing wasn't this. This was no hoodie-wearing Russian adolescent. This individual was inside the structure. Someone who has access. Someone who was skilled at making me appear to be making a mistake. We are both aware of who that individual was. Ryan didn't approach me directly. He was aware he couldn't. He lost when he tried that. He was now trying to damage my reputation. Chip by chip, error by error, until I eventually appeared to be too much of a liability to continue. Traditional corporate slow kill. What was he unaware of? I had previously seen this game. I had a director like him at my first job after college. Power-hungry, emotionally sluggish, and passive-aggressive. He didn't dismiss anyone until they resigned or silently vanished within the office walls. He simply cut off their resources. One by one, I saw decent individuals go beneath that man. However, I was no longer 22, and I was definitely not going anywhere. I began recording everything, each and every bug, every strange lag, all the accidental errors that had my name but not my fingerprints. I even began writing in my notepad by hand. Old-fashioned, indeed, including times, dates, who said what, when I submitted what, and who gave their approval. Paper trails don't lie, and they also don't get erased by accident. The day I heard it then arrived. I heard Ryan's voice, loud and overconfident for the space, as I passed one of the smaller conference rooms. She is erratic. She has been unpredictable ever since she returned. Hostile. She isn't capable of handling demanding clients. In my opinion, I went cold. A second voice answered. Someone new. Perhaps that finance executive. Yes, but she was successful in closing the Kingswell acquisition. Under extreme pressure, Ryan laughed. She was fortunate. We cannot rely on luck to run a business. With frost in my veins, I stood outside the door. He was sowing seeds. Once more, to make me look bad. Silently. In a strategic manner. In order for him to be able to say, when things did go wrong, which they would, he'd make sure of it, you see? She was spiraling, I told you, so I remained up late that night. Fluorescent lights hummed in the calm office. I pondered how many more goddamn battles I would have to fight in order to carry out my duties in peace, as I sat in the glass meeting room and looked up at the skyline. Then I heard someone speak. Are you still here? I pivoted. Mr. Cole was the one. I said, I could ask you the same thing. Placing a folder on the table, he intervened. Your updated contract. All of our agreements. I took it open. It was good language. Waterproof. Then he included, I have initiated an internal audit as well. I quickly looked up. There have been far too many misfiled items lately, he stated. There are too many patterns. Lily, I'm not blind. Ryan isn't finished, I know that. So why haven't you intervened to stop him? I inquired. A long pause ensued. Because I needed to see how far he'd go, he added slowly. He sounded worn out. Unlike a CEO, no, similar to a dad. I made eye contact with him. You're attempting to safeguard the business. He gave a head shake. I'm working to keep you two safe. However, it might be too late for one of you. I shut the folder. I declared. I don't require protection. I want you to choose the legacy you wish to leave behind. He remained silent, simply gave me a long, heavy stare before leaving. The air altered the following week. Not due of the change in the weather, because individuals did. As I passed, conversations became more subdued. A few grinned. Others averted their gaze. I sensed that the audit was progressing, discovering deterioration by crawling under the company's floors. And I wasn't afraid for the first time in weeks. I was prepared. Let's examine the true depth of this hole. The audit team occupied the former second-floor storage area by Thursday. With files piled to the roof, whiteboards covered in digital breadcrumbs, and more coffee cups than people, they transformed it into what appeared to be a miniature FBI war room. I was summoned in without hesitation. The lead internal auditor, David, welcomed me as though he had endured 10 rounds of corporate bullshit and was simply looking for the truth. Thanks for coming, Lily. We have some inquiries for you regarding some recent anomalies. I gave a nod. Don't be afraid. I had had enough of being afraid. A file appeared on a screen. This email should be our first focus. Your account seems to be the source of it. However, we have identified a shared workstation next to the break room as the source. Your login information was manually input. I tightened my jaw. So my login was copied by someone? David gave a headshake. No. Your credentials were used by someone. It's not phishing. Access from within. Your password was known to someone. Or have it preserved. I leaned back and crossed my arms. When this exact incident occurred, I reported it. He smiled at me wearily. We are aware. That was beneficial. A great deal. Since we discovered more? Emails were revised. Spreadsheets were modified. Sign-offs have been eliminated. They're all connected to your name, but from shared computers all the time. Always with a digital smear job of some sort. My stomach turned over. Not out of fear, in rage. This was planned. Ryan wasn't merely attempting to frighten me. He had a case to make. A phony one. Laying the groundwork to portray me as unpredictable, untrustworthy, and inept. This was not careless sabotage. It was a surgical procedure. David paused for a moment. A pattern has been identified. The majority of tracks end at the login for Ryan's executive assistant. Although we haven't made any accusations yet, let's just say that the evidence isn't subtle. Now what? Even though I already knew, I asked. We have been instructed to provide Mr. Cole a direct presentation of everything, no filtering. Not a spin, just the facts. I gave a nod. I'll be there then. David blinked. You're not needed, with composure, I responded. I will be there. I want to look everyone in that room in the eye if this is going public. He didn't dispute. I didn't get any sleep that night. Not because I feared what they could discover, but because I couldn't stop thinking about my predecessors. The silent ones. The ones that simply disappeared. We have lost at least 6 mid-level employees in the past year alone. 30s and 40s individuals. Astute. Committed. Honored. Then abruptly disappeared. I believed it to be burnout at the time. Restructuring. Things change in life. Right now, I wasn't entirely certain. Ryan had pushed out how many of them? Discredited in silence. Undermined. Tricked into believing they were the issue. I arrived early for the executive boardroom the following morning. The large one. The one with the squeaky chairs and ridiculously big table that seemed to cost more than my car. Mr. Cole was there already, standing close to the window. He watched the city as if it held answers he was unable to discover. David and 2 other auditors showed up. Then Ryan entered. Late. I'm holding the phone. A smug look on his face. As if this morning were any other, rather than the one in which his whole sense of control was on the verge of collapsing. Then he noticed me. In the doorway, he froze. His voice was strained as he stated, She is not on the audit committee. Mr. Cole remained still. I asked her to come here. Ryan moved, clearly uneasy. This is meant to be an internal matter. Private. Then I struck him with it. Be calm. Cool, sharper than glass. So perhaps you shouldn't have created fake emails from my account using company resources. Ryan laughed. That is absurd. David cleared his throat. A screen was pulled up. Really, it isn't. He guided us through it while tapping the keyboard. Several attempts to log in. Everything was linked to the account of Ryan's executive assistant. Are connected to anomalies in Lily's work, fake edits, unapproved dispatches. The entire trail aligns. Ryan's expression wavered. He was grinning, a smirk he had practiced. You're reaching, he remarked, raising his voice. She's just upset that she was fired. I looked over at him. Ryan, you didn't let me leave. You undermined me. And, in the process, you nearly ruined the Kingswell agreement. Mr. Cole eventually turned around at that point. His voice pierced through everything because it was so calm. Ryan, I gave you a chance. Several. I wanted you to demonstrate your worth. However, you have just destroyed those who have been attempting to establish something genuine here. Ryan's mouth opened, but nothing came out. You don't think this? Mr. Cole shook his head and said, No, it's worse. He got up. This report will be reviewed by the board. You are suspended till then, with instant effect. Have you ever witnessed someone in real time understand they're in trouble? Ryan was that person. He gave me one final glance, and this time, it wasn't rage, it was incredulity, as if he had truly thought his tricks would work once more. that his falsehoods would be believed, that his father would save him again. However, nobody said anything, and he left without saying a word. The whole room let out a collective sigh as the door closed. Mr. Cole took a seat, stroked his temples. The first break in his voice came. I let him down. In the role of a leader, as a father, perhaps. I gave a head shake. You cannot guide someone who is unwilling to develop, but you are still capable of running this business. He gave me a glance, glanced closely, and he nodded for the first time since the beginning of this whole affair, as if he had now realized who was actually preventing this place from igniting. It was 2 weeks later. Ryan never returned. Not to work, not to the boardroom, not even to pretend to be sorry. His fabled smile decreased to office lore, something that was discussed like a warning in Slack conversations and elevators. And me? I didn't feel victorious. I was at peace, not numb, not chilly. Simply be steady, as if I had finally given up attempting to prove myself to people who were unaware of the burden I bore. I extinguished the fires. I gave the years. On a Friday morning, the final audit report arrived. Dense, accurate, brutal. Falsified emails, login trails, improper alterations, missing papers, and attempts to tamper with HR procedures were all exposed. And either directly or through those who reported to him, Ryan's name was everywhere. There was no argument. Don't spin, he said. She said, no, only proof. Chilly, unquestionable. His contract was unceremoniously terminated by the board. No news release. Nothing to say. No farewell celebration. Only a security escort through the back exit and a 2-sentence internal email. A CEO ghost who never deserved the position. Still, word got out. Individuals converse, particularly after they have endured stress for an extended period of time. In that building, the collective exhalation was almost tangible, as if the business itself had finally been given permission to breathe after a year of holding its breath. Even so, I didn't grin, because beating Ryan was never the goal here. The goal was to prevent him from ever doing it again. I was summoned to Mr. Cole's office a few days later. The door shut. The same folder was on the desk as previously, but it was open this time. You succeeded, he remarked. No, I answered. We succeeded. You simply quit acting as though you were blind to what was going on. Weary, he nodded. Sincere. Over the last month, you've demonstrated more leadership than most executives have in the last 5 years. You didn't back down. This business was held together by you, and you carried it out while under internal attack. He slid me a piece of paper, letter of promotion, head of client strategy, executive position, reported straight to him. I gazed at it. This was not what I had requested. He remarked, you deserve it, because you did more than simply survive. In an area that was collapsing, you restored trust. I made eye contact with him. I want to do it my way if I accept this. I don't want to be another person with a title. Rebuilding this culture is my goal. I want everyone to feel secure here once more. He gave a gentle smile. That's precisely what I hoped you would say. I sat by myself that evening in the makeshift office they had provided me, a peaceful area while the upstairs was being renovated. The door does not yet have a nameplate. Waiting, a blank slab of brushed metal. I looked at it for a while. I had been walking these halls invisibly for years, waiting for others to claim credit, silently clearing up messes. I believed that the calm was maintained by being silent, that I would keep my employment, my stability, and my place if I didn't cause any trouble. Silence, however, nearly cost me everything. Ryan wasn't the only one involved. It was about everyone who believed that being competent was a sign of arrogance, that professionalism was a sign of weakness, that women such as myself simply got lucky. I wasn't fortunate. I was really good. Finally, at last, I made a demand to be seen. I went to work in the weeks that followed. The real work, not just the desk job portion. Reopening discussions in silence, repairing bridges that Ryan had set on fire, establishing systems for anonymous reporting, monitoring staff members who used to recoil when they saw an executive passing by. Some of them were still anxious and waiting for the other shoe to drop when they arrived at my office. How did you maintain your strength? They inquired. And I was honest with them. I remarked, "You don't get to pick the battles, but in the midst of them, you do have the power to choose who you become." What about Ryan? He was attempting to interview with smaller out of state companies, as far as I knew. However, he was already being followed by his name. A father's last act of grace, according to some, was Mr. Cole making a few discreet calls to keep matters out of the news. Perhaps that was the case, perhaps not. I didn't inquire. I didn't give a damn. The Kingswell agreement took place in the old boardroom, which I happened to visit one afternoon. The echoes were still reflected from the glass walls. For a time, I stood there, recalling the mayhem, the terror, the command. Then, without retaliation or even pride, I grinned. But because I could still clearly recall the precise instant when everything changed. Not until I regained my job. Not while Ryan was on suspension. No. I grinned as I stood in his office for the second time, my heart racing, my dignity on the line, and I had been fired without cause. Be calm, intentional, and left. Not because I gave up, but because I was at last aware of my value, and I vowed that whatever came next, I would never again allow somebody to take that away from me.